And just like that, it's another Saturday live stream with all of you jazzmentalists from around the world. Thanks for being here. Those of you that are regulars know to show up on time. So great to see you here. Just a quick shout out to those of you that are here. Few names: Rich, Lisa, Keith, Greg, Steve, Shal, Don, Ben, Keith, Larry, Francis, and everybody else who is on the live stream but not yet in the chat area. That's where we spend our conversation, over in the chat area. Just let me know about the sound, if everything's okay. You are my eyes and ears for this live stream. We don't have a technical team. It's just you and me. And so if the sound is a little bit off, or I think last week we had some kind of echo that I had to reboot for. Maybe that was a couple weeks ago. But anyway, just let me know if everything's fine. Here's what we're planning on doing today. We're going to work on this tune, which I'm going to throw up on your screen. I'll give you a link to it in just a moment. It's called Wave, and it is Carlos Antônio Jobim, which, as many of you know, is the king of bossa nova medleys and melodies. So, just a little bit of background on this tune. When I went to college many, many years ago, the very first thing that my teacher, Nick Deutsch, gave me to learn was this piece. And I think that was a mistake on his part. He might not want to hear that, but it was definitely a mistake because it was way beyond my capability. And it took me a long time to kind of wrap my head around Wave and what it's all about and how it's supposed to sound. And funnily enough, I've learned a lot about the tune over the years, and I've kind of lost my aversion to it. And I actually love this tune because it is a wonderful melody. It's interesting how the vamp moves into the tune and how the two are related, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, as always, I'm going to throw up a link to that sheet music that you can go and download. If you go and download it all at once, sometimes you struggle with the download because everybody's trying to do it at the same time. But regardless of that, I'm going to post it in the chat right now and pin it to the top so that you have access to it throughout today's live stream. And there it is. Go ahead and download that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to play a little bit of Wave because I think, just like we normally do in these sessions, it's good to hear what we're up to. What I want you to listen for, and I always give some direction on what to actually listen to while we're doing this. And by the way, everybody else that's joined us, Alan and Stephen and Francis and everybody else, thanks for coming. Here's what I want you to listen to this time. Listen to the inner voice movement. The basically half tones or semitones that are kind of descending in various places throughout this performance. And that's what really makes Carlos Antônio Jobim's music special, is he always managed to kind of filter in those inner voices. Yes, it's all about melody, that's great, but that sort of counter melody, that movement on the inner voices is really nice. So that's what I want you to listen for. It is in the key of D major, starts out in D minor, which is kind of nice. And I'm going to play the vamp and then dive into the tune. Let me know afterwards. Also listen to the volume, make sure everything is good in that regard as well. So I'm going to shut the mic off just so we don't have any feedback, and then I'll play the tune. Key says, got the chart. Good. Glad you did, and I'm glad it's working. And I'm just reading back through the chat a little bit. I noticed that no one has commented on the piano sound. I'm just trying to ascertain whether it's good. Well, actually, if I go back far enough in the chat, Alan says sound is good, so that's good. Alan, or Alain, welcome from France. Stephen, Karen, Serge, Peter, Philip, nice to see you. Paul and Nancy from Urbana, Illinois, nice to see you as well. And Middle C, I'm in David, nice, okay. So that's what we're going to work on today is this tune. And Serge says the piano sounds good, so that's nice. I guess the question that I have is, did you hear the inner voices moving? Does it sound like something you want to learn? I mean, I actually like the tune. It's not for everyone, but if you like it, just let me know. And we're going to work on it today, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that you need to pick out of this tune to kind of move it along and make sure that you're handling it properly. So I did actually transcribe everything of my own playing, and I tried to play it as close as possible. I'm going to grab a screenshot of it here, and we're going to go through it a little bit just to kind of, like I said, wrap our heads and hearts around it. I just need a one-page view, though, which takes me a second with this software. There we go. Hopefully that'll work. Screenshot. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing is this vamp at the beginning. I wrote out this bass line for you. It's not a standard bass line, but I think it's fun to do. One of the things that it does do, if you were in my paid master classes, you'll notice that I always like these left-hand basses that kind of approach the root of the chord from a half step above or half step below. For example, if we're doing like a 1-6-2-5, it's like, and that's swing, right? This is bossa nova, but it's the same idea. So we're approaching the tonic from a half step below. Like that. And you have to get the melody right. So if you, I just need to look at my chart to make sure that I can see it properly. If you look, the shots are on 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And then it's on the and of 3. Now, if you take a look at this right here, what do I do with my pen? There it is. Right here, you've got 2 eighth notes that come into the root. So the first time is just half step, and then it goes. It's kind of a nice thing to, if you're going to put like this repeat around 2 bars, it's kind of nice to do that. You could play it down an octave too if you wanted to. Might be a little bit too low. And then I reharmonized this, and you'll notice that I put a retard on this right here because it's hard to play. So the first chord, and obviously this is just a melody. That's pretty common. That's really the first 3 notes that make wave, gives it sound. Right, root to major 7. And if you reharmonized it, the first chord is in 4ths, and And then this is a drop 2 voicing of a D minor chord. So this is D minor in first inversion. Take the second note from the top, move it down. And then the next chord is this. So what this is a diminished chord. So take the second note from the top of this E diminished chord and put it down here. So the first chord is voiced in fourths. The second one is drop 2, and the third one is drop 2, but this is like E diminished 7th. And now we get our first inner voice movement. So take a look. From there to there to there to there. This is all semitones. So A minor to A minor major 7th to A minor 6th to D7. Kind of gives it that really nice sound. And then when you get to the last one, it turns into a D7 chord here, and it's also got this flat 9. So D7 flat 9. So you've got 2 notes moving down. Okay. No questions yet, but as always, questions are welcome. I love the people who are giving a shout out to Nancy. It's actually been a tough week for our Nancy. She is actually on an IV right now in the other room getting rehydrated. She's kind of hasn't been eating for a few days. So it's really hard, and we appreciate your thoughts going out to Nancy. So thanks for that, Matthew and Greg, I think. No. Ben. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the tune. I need to scroll down a little bit because we are getting too far down the page. So I have to get rid of this screenshot, go to the PDF, scroll down, just so we can tackle this section, which is starting at the A section. Okay, so we started on the third bar of A section. We've got this line cliche. And then G major 7. Interesting chord here, G minor 6th. It's really over E natural. I need to find the right one to write on. Here we go. So this chord here is really over E natural. This chord, it's almost like an E half diminished 7th chord, but think of it like G minor 6th over E. Now, one of the things that I did, maybe not all the time, but I did this little inner voice movement like this. Right? I'm just kind of like going down in semitones to the sharp, to the major 7th. And this is where the real inner voice line cliche happens, from this section here. So let's listen to it first. So first F sharp with a 13. So that's the 13th of F sharp, which is the D sharp. And then it goes to here, which is the +5. So this is the natural 5. So this is +5. And then it goes to here, which is the 9th of B7, and then the flat 9 of B7. So you got to catch that. That's the flat 9. So one more time from the beginning of the bar. I love this chord here, right? It's just in the left hand, it's got the tritone, and the B is held, so you don't actually play that again. So you just got this tritone, C natural, and then G here for your B7 flat 9 chord. From the beginning of the line again. Now, one of the things that my piano teacher in college, when he first showed me this, he never showed me that. And over the years, I've learned that that's really what makes tunes like this, is that semitone movement descending, sometimes ascending, but in most cases it's descending. So just getting that sound and getting the chord voicings right so that it makes sense. So from the beginning. Now, some people play this, some people play that as an E major 7th. Okay, and then this bar, this is what gives it that flavor. So this is just D minor blues scale. And the blues scale is this. For those of you that don't know blues scale, it's 1 flat 3, 4 flat 5, 5 flat 7. You'll notice there's a lot of flats here, right? 1 flat 3, 4 flat 5, 5 flat 7, back to the root. And so if you look at that line, it's this. And that gets us back when it does this to the vamp. And then notice I slid into this note here. I got like a little slide into that. Just reading some of the comments, making sure I'm up to speed. And again, I just appreciate the comments about Nancy. It's much appreciated. Okay, so let's go to the bridge. I need to obviously take another screenshot and it's a bit slow process, so I apologize if it takes a little time to do this, but I think it's worth it because it allows me to write on the screen, which kind of makes things a little easier to understand, I think, anyway. Why did it go over there? Oh, I'm going to have to do that again. So at the bridge, and I reharmonized it. So typically what you would find at the bridge, if you actually look at a lead sheet, this would be a 2-5-1 of F major. And then this next section would be a 2-5-1 of E flat. So we'd do this. everyone. I started the 2-5-1 a little early. I apologize for that. I missed a bar. Let's erase this. And then the 2-5-1 starts here. So 2-5-1 of E flat major. So let's play it like that. And then it goes. Okay? But in the reharm, you can see that I've done some different things. So the first is, I played this chord in fourths, which is this G minor 7th chord. I play that in fourths. It kind of makes a nice voicing. And then C7 over B flat. And then instead of going to F, we're going to A minor. Because that gives us more choices here where we can put in this 2-5 of G minor. And listen to the inner voice movement on that one. This is a beautiful chord, right? D7, sharp 11 with a flat 9. So the sharp 11 is here, which is the G sharp, and then the flat 9 is the E flat. So let's erase that. And you've got that inner voice movement from the sharp 11 to the 5th of the chord, sorry. So one more time. And then instead of going to F minor, we're going to play like an A flat chord, which is like F minor, but over B flat. So it's like a B flat sus chord. And then do a 2-5 of G minor with using the tritone substitution here. So think of this chord like a tritone substitution for D7. So A half diminished 7th to A flat with a sharp 11. Actually, it's not a sharp 11. I should take a sharp 9. That's right. That's what it is. This note here. And then this lovely sort of A plus 7 flat 9 chord. So sharp 5, right? This chord here. Let's do the bridge all together now. Notice, I'm going to play the bridge again, but notice these chords here. They're doing this dotted quarter note and then a half note. That gives it that bossa nova rhythm. Right? If you look at the way the drummers play, it's kind of like this. And that's that rhythm, right? Fun stuff. I mean, you don't have to use this bridge reharmonization. You can simply do the 2-5-1 in F major and the 2-5-1 in E flat if you want to. I like the way this shifts the feel of the bridge. You can let me know in the comments whether you like that or not. It's completely up to you whether you decide to use this reharm, but I think it's good to learn. If you're going to play this, you have to give the bass player a chart because the bass player is not going to be able to hear those things unless he has super ears. But even if he did, you're not really playing roots probably. You'll probably leave those out. So you kind of have to let him know what to play and the rhythms to play as well so that you're both playing the same things, which kind of makes nice music, I think. I noticed there's this distinct lack of questions today. I'm not sure what that's about. Are we all keen on learning this thing? And I'm not sure if there's anything you want to talk about, but you're more than welcome to put your comments in there. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to talk about soloing because that's really not the easiest tune to do this on. So you're going to need a few ideas. So let's throw the sheet music back. And in this case, we're not going to, well, actually, yeah, we're not going to write on it for now. So I'm just going to show this PDF here. Make sure that I'm scrolled to the right place. There we go. So now just take a look at the first part where you've got this D minor 7 to G7 chord. If you're soloing, especially solo piano, you might want to do some kind of thing in the left hand instead of this, because it's really hard to play solo when you're doing this. Not the easiest thing to do. So what you might want to do instead is just throw down like a broken chord. So the D and then some kind of D minor on top. What you don't want to do is use kind of like the North American ripoff version of bossa nova, which is this. It's not actually what bossa nova bass players play. I don't know where we got that from, but that's kind of how people do it. Kind of hokey anyway. Definitely better to do it kind of like that if you are going to play bass line. But anyway, broken chords. You can actually anticipate the and of 4. Just make sure that you keep the rhythm going, folks, because what I don't like to see especially in bossa nova music, is no rhythm. I mean, you can take this and you can play it as a ballad if you want to. It would sound kind of like this. But it's not that, because you got lines like this. So you're combining blues with bossa nova. So the most important thing is feel, right? So even if it takes you, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a month to do this, just kind of feel it, right? if you don't have that feel, people aren't going to feel you. I think that's probably the best way that I can say it. People can't feel music unless you feel it. Makes sense, right? And we don't have a bass player. I don't have one here. I don't have a drummer. And it's up to us to make that sound. Keep your foot going on 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5. Kind of the bomb on this tune. I think what a lot of bands tend to do is just vamp on that for a while. In fact, somebody might do like a whole solo just on the vamp, which is kind of fun to do, right? Rich says this version and the vamp is more relaxed than the way you play it on previous videos. Yeah, probably. I think the last time I did this tune in a tutorial video was like way back at the beginning of the channel. And my playing has changed a lot over the last couple of years with all of these tutorials and all of these sessions that I'm doing and making an album and doing a lot of studying. And I think my playing as a general rule is just more relaxed. So I'm glad you pointed that out. Thank you. And Sarah says, I play Ipanema with simple bass line, but it doesn't sound too bad, I think. You know, Ipanema is another one of those tunes, right? Right? Ipanema, I think it's quite a bit different than this tune because it doesn't have blues in it. This does. Yeah. Orange Cow says, I don't know if I'm Ornco, not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I haven't seen you here before. Are you new? You play incredibly jazzy and delightful. I hope that one day I can play like you. You know, hope's got nothing to do with it. Hope keeps you in a state of hoping. I will play like you one day is better than hope. So just rewrite it in the chat and just kind of set your intention, right? I will play like you one day. Because will means you're willing to invest in yourself in time and energy and lessons and all those kinds of things. So that's really what changes our lives. It's not hope that changes things. It's the will that we have to change. I think hope is like the bare minimum. Ornco says, okay, I will. Thank you. Perfect. Hey, Mr. Lightning. Hello to you too. And an amen from... Oh man, I get my name so screwed up. I believe it's Rich. Yeah. No. I'm having a brain malfunction at the moment. King Sax, can you just write your name in, please? I'm just so sorry. I'm having a brain melt. I'll try to remember it. I was like scrolling back in the chat to find your name. I knew what it was, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Anyway. Okay, so now we're going to get into the tune. So take a look at the A section, and there's a DS sign over top of the A, in case you can't see it. It's basically, well, let me scroll a little bit. I'm going to put it right at the top. Okay, so there you go. So now we've got like D major 7. So we went from this minor thing, and then we got to make our way to major. Now, I can tell you soloing in D major is not the easiest thing to do, but what you might want to consider to make things easier is just think about maybe pentatonics. So 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Okay, just something like that. And then it's a little easier when you get to the half diminished chord, because you can just play half diminished scales, right? And then it's just a 2, 5, 1 with A minor to G7, G major 7. If I'm going too fast, it's just because I'm trying to get some thoughts out that I think are important. Let's go back to the D major 7. Now, when you're playing this, I think the problem with D major, it's just so bright. It sounds kind of hokey. So what I like to do is in the left hand, I like to play a voicing kind of like these voicings, which are fourths. So plunk down the D7 or the D chord, 1 and 5 in the left, and then just run the scale in fourths. Okay. And do pentatonics in the right hand. Ben, thank you. Oh my goodness, Ben. How am I going to remember everybody's name? I'm trying. I'm really trying my best. A lot of people don't put in their names, and I'm getting pretty good at it. But for some reason, I have these like little mental meltdowns. I won't forget Ben. So now back to the D major 7th chord. So kind of make these hollow voicings just to sound a little bit more modern. I did a video recently on how to make left-hand modern voicings. I'm not sure if you saw it or downloaded it, but it's basically over the tune Autumn Leaves, where we're talking about these fourth voicings. And then we're just going to do a B-flat diminished chord. The other thing about that chord is you can think about it in terms of like a C. It's like a C major 7 or a C dominant 7 with a flat 9. That's this B flat chord. So then you can also play anything to do with C7 as well with a flat 9. So if we played this, notice how that works, right? So this is a C7 with a 13 and a 9 as a kind of a standard voicing. Notice that this is B flat diminished 7th or E or G diminished 7th. They're not that the same, but they sound kind of like the same. So it works, right? Yes, piano jazz, Greg. I said that earlier. I caught your name earlier, Greg. What did I do with my pen? Well, actually, I don't have anything to write on anyway because I did take a screenshot. So, but I did want to kind of point out that 251 of G major. So when we go from the A minor to the major seventh to the sixth to D7, think about an A minor or an A blues scale. So we did D blues scale earlier. This time it's A blues scale. Kind of nice to play that over the A. Kind of makes things easier. So what you're doing in soloing is you're looking for these little ideas that can make things easier. So pentatonics over D to the C7 to the A blues scale to just a G major chord. And I think like bebop scale with the passing note being sharp 5. You could do it also sharp 4 if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. Okay, one more time. Pentatonics on D. G minor. Again, chord tones are really important in these things. So if you went from G major, it's a natural B and then going to the flat when on G minor. And it's going to be really hard to think about soloing over these chords, which is like an F sharp with 13 and then going down that line cliche. So I think the best way to think about that is maybe the same thing as our B flat diminished chord. Think of a C7 chord because that's the tritone substitution of F. So it kind of makes it easier to think about like that. So if we were from the G major 7 to the B7, and then when we get to the E7 chord in soloing, that's where you can easily change that chord. Because the thing is, when it comes down this, that's an E7 chord. It's also B flat 7. So it's nice to play E minor to B flat 7 instead of E7 to B flat 7. It's the same chord. So you're kind of switching things up a little bit. So playing E minor blues scale to the D blues scale. Let's do that one more time. So Matthew says, I love the chromatic movements in this tune. Absolutely. That's what it's all about. Getting that chromatic movement sound. Right, all of that. Okay. From the D, pentatonics to C7 to A blues scale to G, bebop scale to G minor, and I think on G minor just use a simple Dorian scale to F7, which is also C7 to B7 to E major to E minor blues scale, D blues scale, And that's all there is to that, folks. One more time. Then when we get to the bridge, we don't need to go through this, but we will. 2-5-1 in F major. It gets so much easier at the bridge because it's just 2-5-1 of F, 2-5-1 of E flat. Simple, right? Easy peasy. That's the way that goes. B3R says, hi, everyone. Hey, haven't seen you here before. Are you new as well? Yeah, a couple of people. Paul says, I love the girl from Ipanema. Lots of people, well, maybe not lots, but other people pointed that out. Jorg says, fourth voicing specifically for D major or major generally. Yeah, so not just D major, it's just for major chords in general. So for example, we talked about Girl from Ipanema. If we're doing Girl from Ipanema in F, it's like this. So just like a F major chord, just go up the scale in fourths. So instead of playing thirds like this, play it in fourths. And stick to the actual chords or the scale. Right? And so you get a very different sound. Girl from Ipanema played in fourths sounds very different than this. Like, let's play it in thirds. If you play it in fourths, it sounds like this. And then you could do a 1-4-3-6 there instead of just going from here to G. Just do this. Go 1, 4, 3, 6, 2. Right? It's a very different sound playing in fourths. That question came from Jörg Gruber. I hope that answers your question. So whenever you're faced with a very tonal tune like this, especially D major, think force. It's a very different sound. It gives you a much more modern sound. Again, if you want to learn more about force, there is a video. Maybe I can just grab the link for it. Now that's going to take too long. So just go to the Jazz Mental YouTube channel and just search for how to make your playing sound more modern in 10 minutes. Because that's really all it takes to learn force. It's just thirds on steroids. So instead of thirds, right, you're just separating it by force and just going up the scale. So going up the scale in thirds is this. Go up in fourths, it's this. Right? It's not that hard. Okay. And Ben says, thank you. That's what's missing from Ipanema. Yeah, I think Ipanema can kind of sound really hokey. One of the things I really like about Ipanema, and I didn't really intend to do this, but if you're playing Ipanema like this versus this, to me, this is my favorite chord in the whole thing. So this is a G flat sharp 11 chord, right? This is the sharp 11 on that chord. So however you voice that is really up to you, but it kind of makes the whole tune, because a lot of people go to C7. And it's really much better if you go to G flats. It changes the whole feel of the tune from the kind of this hokey, right? I mean, this is nice in context, right? But it's nice to kind of make things sound a little more modern. Yeah, so on the F sharp 13 and F sharp 7, Lightning says, are you playing the half whole diminished scale? You could do that. So for example, if we're on the F7, F13 here, so we're starting on this chord, which is the F7 chord, you could play half whole. But you then have to change to this one. So the answer is not really, because it's kind of like defines the tune. So you want to find some way to kind of accentuate that. So I would say, you know, F7 to B flat to B7 with a flat 9. So the answer is I could do that, or I could do a bunch of other things. I don't think there's one way to do it. You could use half whole. The problem with half whole scale is they just start to sound mundane after a while. So if we just did that on that, right? I mean, it's modern, and it's a nice way to make it through it. Let's try it in the context of the tune. Yeah, it works. It just kind of doesn't really do much for the tune. In other words, catching the chord tones. Right? It's a different sound for sure. Can you do it? Yes, you can. Should you do it? In moderation. I hope that answers your question. Mechanimal says that's like Herbie's chordal approach of the early to mid 60s. Yeah, for sure. But it's not just Herbie's approach. It's like McCoy Tyner. If you ever listen to McCoy Tyner's music, it sounds a lot like that, right? Plunk down these fists in the left hand and then play these quarter voicings, right? I mean, McCoy was more of an animal on that kind of stuff than Herbie was. I would, if you're really interested in that sound, I would check out a little bit more of McCoy Tyner. But good thought. Thank you. Funky. Love that. Perfect. Love it. I can't translate that. I need Google Translate. Play Lembra de Min. Yeah, I don't know that tune. I could. If you find me a chart and send it to me quickly. Amodi says, this right here is what I call a reality moment as opposed to a teachable moment, where the student realizes the depths of what they've been taking on and not intimidated by it. Oh, that's good. That's a nice thought. And McCoy, what I said before. And Khalija says, hey, Modi, hey, Paul. Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Okay. At this point in the session, we've got a few minutes left. I'm just going to play a little bit over the tune one more time, just to kind of see how it's changed and start to incorporate some of the ideas that we used in the session and just get a different sound. So let me play a little bit and I'll come back and we'll give you some instructions. For those of you that haven't downloaded the sheet music, take a look at the pinned message to the top of your screen. Go and download it before the session is over. Take that off the screen, take that off the screen. Shut my mic off and I'll be back in a few minutes. Let me play something for you, okay? And that's really jazz. You know, not everything works, right? You try to time things properly. So I tried to kind of do this, where I'm kind of like just coming down the blues scale. And it, you know, kind of sometimes works out when you get to the end, and sometimes it just doesn't, right? So sometimes you might want to keep it simpler. Still didn't work, right? So you have to understand at that speed, not everything works out, and nobody's perfect. So there you go. Greg says, what I enjoyed most was swanky chords contrasted with the bluesy lines. Yeah, swanky chords. I like that. And, sorry, Greg says, damn fine playing. You're welcome. Rich says, what I enjoyed most. Yeah, got it. I got to keep everybody's names straight. I'm working on it. Ornco, bravo. Thank you. All right, so that's it for today, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's currently 10 after. I'm going to leave the sheet music up for a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to remove it because I don't like to reward people for not showing up. I also, just quickly, I sent everybody, a couple weeks ago, we did Mo Better Blues, right? And I had my transcriber transcribe the entire 8-page solo that I did. And I think it's actually pretty good. Even some of the mistakes that I made in the solo, we kind of corrected those on the transcription. I sent everybody an email. For those of you that downloaded the sheet music today, I sent you an email with a coupon code. It's what keeps the channel going. It's not necessarily, hey, you're going to go and learn everything that you're downloading and transcribing, whatever, but it's just a small kind of like token of saying, hey, thanks for keeping these things going, because the money keeps us afloat a little bit. And the transcriber who does those kinds of things is quite pricey. So it does help us pay him off and do other things to the channel. So if you can do that, that's great. If not, think about a donation at some point. That would be really nice. And for those of you that gave a shout out to Nancy today, I'm going to go actually spend some time with her now. I have some work to do for her. So I'm going to go do that. And it has not been a good week for her. So for those of you that have sent well wishes, and for the rest of you, just keep her in your prayers. And I thank you so much for the kind thoughts. It's really nice. It has been a really tough time, and we're working through it. So thanks. We'll see everybody next Saturday, same time, same place, same YouTube channel. And from all of us here at jazzmental.com,